Welcome back to the New Patients Now podcast. Your host, again, Flint Geyer. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing a conversation that I had with Marc Wagner from Dental Bytes and Dentists on Demand. Joining the discussion were my colleague, Machelle Williams, as long as a representative from Patterson Dental, while they were actually traveling all throughout Western Canada, meeting with practices and hearing firsthand what doctors and their teams were experiencing in today's environment. One of the reasons that I enjoyed the conversation and wanted to share it was that it was built around a specific agenda, really a candid discussion on what's going on in private practices, what we're seeing out in the field, where people are succeeding, where they're struggling, and some of the opportunities that often get overlooked in the just demands of day-to-day running the practice. As I listened back to it, I was reminded of something that we talked about really throughout the entire episode, that growth is rarely limited by a lack of effort, right? Most doctors are working really hard. They are really more often limited by the blind spots of inconsistent execution, opportunities that really just haven't been found out. So as you listen to it, I encourage you to think about your own practice, where you're making progress, where you might be settling for good when great's possible, and what opportunities might be sitting right in front of you that you might not see. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Here's the episode.
Yeah, so it's been an exciting week and a half, I guess. And Machelle flew in from Mississippi, Memphis, last Sunday. Had to take 4 flights to get to Kelowna. She didn't receive her luggage until Wednesday, so that was very exciting. Anyway, we had an event Tuesday in Kamloops, which was really well attended, and then Thursday in Kelowna, and we just did one last night in Victoria. So the reason I brought the Practice Growth Institute out was because I've seen the results in some of my clients' offices, and I really wanted to share that with other clients, and I was able to participate in one of their discovery days down actually in the Phoenix facility.
Yeah,
And Machelle and I have become quite good friends, and she's now an honorary Canadian.
for sure.
So I'm so happy that she was able to join. But yeah, maybe tell a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a remarkable week and a half. The time has flown by, and personally, like you said, it's just been an amazing experience. Professionally, we came together, and I'm leaving my time here in Canada with a dear friend. I'll treasure this experience for a long time. It means so much to me and to our company, to have this opportunity. I hit the ground running last Sunday, and every event was so well promoted by Patterson and so well attended. And along the way, was able to really share what I am confident that our company does like no other company in the industry. And so we picked up some really great clients along the way and have been able to visit with existing clients. So it's been a win so far. Super excited.
Awesome. Let's reverse a little bit. So, what are the typical situations and why you guys will see somebody, or what are some key things, 3 things that are mission critical in the beginning of everything, and maybe allude to some of the things that are the aha moments that people see once they start the process. And Flint, you can jump into this part as well.
I mean, it's funny, what Machelle is getting out there and sharing in these events is actually, it's pretty tight. There's 3 things that are always going to be really those consistent struggles for a practice, right? And so, Marc, I was listening to a few of your previous episodes, and one of the more recent ones, or maybe a few months back, talking about the people business of dentistry, right? So we do stuff one way in America, sure. There's some things that happen in Canada. Michelle's coming up from Mississippi, but what they're talking to these doctors about in these events and these team leaders in these events, right? And Machelle and Bobbie-Jo, tell me how this is going, but it's about how we are creating experiences and making the people who are the patients feel as if, like, I've been prepared for. Like, these people are really taking seriously the opportunity to serve and provide value for those patients. And at the core, that is what we do, and what we try and emphasize with not just our clients, but really any doctor, is taking more seriously those little moments that is where the patient ultimately judges, hey, is this a place I want to go? Is this a place I want to stay? And is this a place that I want to tell other people about?
Yeah, totally. And I've seen some of the, I saw there's this great piece of data that's floated around. I think you guys did something around like 12,000 ghost calls to practices, and you got some really eye-opening numbers. One of them is just like how the front end takes that traffic into the front of the practice. And it's opportunity, right? And especially when you have these practices spending X amount of dollars, like some big dollars on marketing. Looking at the business overall, yes, it's the experience for sure. And the first feel of the practice are those, the team members at the front of the practice answering the call. But like, how underserved, how under supported is that front end, and how important is it to obviously we're always focused on the clinical aspect of the business, but it's like the yin and the yang of the dental practice, as the yang being that front end, isn't it? The business center.
One of the things we did in our events is Machelle and her team prepared and did some research on every attendee that was there. And I honestly didn't know how this was going to go because I was a little nervous about it, but Machelle handled it like a pro. But they did mystery calls to everybody that was in that group. And so when we asked, or Machelle told them, you could see all of their faces just kind of go white. And then once we played the first one, Machelle was really good about it. Nobody really got over 1 out of 5. But she handled it really well. And then, of course, everybody wanted to hear their calls. And if we didn't have time to play them, they stayed. So I just wanted to mention that because that was a really fun part of the evening, I have to tell you. And it was very eye-opening and enlightening to those doctors.
And just the proof of the pudding, right? Like if you aren't shining a light on things, and if you're you're unaware of things that are happening in the practice, have you, Machelle, maybe you can answer this, like, that white face, like, how do you handle that? Like, how do you make somebody feel like still like a professional and not embarrassed about that this is going on in the practice and it's something that really needs to be, addressed?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had it straight on, right? And as I went into the night setting up what was about to happen, it's just really being honest and transparent about what it is to run a business, right? The practice is their business. And so asking the questions like, while you're clinically trying to handle everything in the back, and while you've got office managers and team members asking things of you, right, in your practice, do you really know what's going on? And so as we get into playing the calls, it's a reality that's just not that doc in the chair who they've raised their hand and I've said, okay, Dr. Williams, would you like to hear your call? But it's really collectively every single doctor in that room. Like she said, we rate on a 1 to 5, 5 being the best. We never had an event up to to tonight where we had more than 2 in the room. So helping them realize that they are not an island by themselves, that it was everyone in the room is facing the same issues, and listening, but looking at it as an opportunity, not a setback. And so when I am able to share that, then it really hopefully opens up their minds and their mindset to change, and what we can provide and how we can make that happen.
So Flint, you can jump in here too. Like, what's how does a practice get 5 out of 5? Like, what metrics are there? Like, what is that? Is that a combination of seeing the systems or addressing the patient appropriately, taking information? What does that look like?
Yeah. So Michelle's referring to our 5-star system. So this is something that, when it's funny, you mentioned like a study of a bunch of calls over time. So these 5 components actually were generated out of an original study. So This would have been probably the mid 90s. And at the time, my father, who started the company back in the mid 90s, he was the marketing director in a practice. And so his role was to get the new patients to walk through the front door, right? So he's spending money on marketing. He's doing all, like, he literally was the guy on the side of the road doing the like flipping the sign around, trying to get you to go to, at the time, a chiropractor's office, right, to get an adjustment and help with your headaches, like doing free dinners at the buffets and, I mean, literally anything you could imagine. And he figured out you could do all the marketing in the world, but that's going to actually not get the patient in the front door. It was going to get the person to call the practice. And so discovered, hey, if I can get the person who's answering the phone to just answer it this way, I got a better result. And did was supposed to do, let's say, a 500 practice study. So the original data sample was supposed to be a 500 practice study of these 5 areas. And I think he got through 104 and realized there's no need for any more calls. I figured out what the problem is, right? And it came down to 5 things. So any of your listeners, anybody who's on here, right? If you listen for these 5 things, it's actually really not overcomplicated. You know, a lot of people want to make it something that it isn't. It really is a pretty simple process. And in each one of these talks, I can imagine Machelle is walking through and basically laying out, hey, here's the 5 things that we're going to look for before we listen to your call. And no one ever disagrees. So the 5 things are a warm, welcoming greeting, right? Let the person know, hey, who have you called? Who are you speaking with? Make them feel through that tonality that they've called the right place. And this is somebody who actually wants to help me, doesn't just see my call as a distraction to whatever they were doing before the phone started to ring. 2 is quickly identifying, well, what kind of call is this? This is a new patient, an existing patient, a sales call. Is this somebody's mom trying to call the practice, right? Like, who am I dealing with so I can effectively listen to their questions and answer them in the most effective way without putting up barriers between the practice and the patient. Then transitioning, so taking control of the conversation. And then we go into the close, which sounds so simple, but like just offering an appointment. In that original data set, 90% of the time, the person in the practice did not offer an appointment because we assume that if a person wants to schedule, they're going to say it. But unfortunately, a lot of people make these calls to the dental office with some anxiety, with some previous experiences they don't love. So they're looking for that first easy out. So it's really about making it a simple and efficient process to offer an appointment in a way where we can kind of guide the conversation with that patient. And then lastly, if they don't schedule, we have to make sure we're getting some information. So getting some data, limiting that data to where it doesn't feel like I'm interrogating you, but enough to where I can follow up just in case you have not gotten on the schedule. So those are the 5 things we're looking for. And to Michelle's point, sometimes the maybe simple or obvious, maybe it's a mix-up of the order. Maybe it's inadvertently putting up barriers between the patient and the practice. But that's how we end up getting those 1s and 2s, is just making it more complicated for the patient to come in and be seen, right? I mean, Machelle, you guys have done a lot of calls in the last few days. What are y'all seeing consistently in the offices up there?
Well, the the calls were, for the most part, pretty similar.
Yeah.
In every office that we did, and I guess we probably did like close to 45
Yeah.
calls. And when you guys make the call, you leave the opportunity after almost every comment for them
Mhm.
to say something or to close or to ask questions, and most of them don't. They don't take control of the conversation at all. And
And
sorry, go ahead.
one of the things I was just going to say that's jumped out to me throughout the meetings is that the teams, right?
Mhm.
The people that are placed in that position to answer the calls, and ultimately they're the ones that are getting the patients in the chair. The intent universally is there. I think
Yeah.
people want to serve and do well, but the problem is they don't have the tools. They haven't been trained, and so therefore, as we're listening to the calls, are they kind? Yes. Do they sometimes give too much information? But I think it really comes from a good place, and so I think the aha moment for a lot of the docs in the room was, I'm not doing my part as a leader. I am not enabling my team to have what they need to do the job I need them to do, yet I'm expecting them to do it. So you could kind of see the light bulbs going off. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's been,
Yeah, they just weren't given the tools.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
really weren't.
And like Bobbie-Jo, you have a lot of successful clients,
Yeah.
clinics out there. The ones that win it's all about systems, isn't it?
Yes. Structure, systems, training, leadership.
Yeah.
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 You know, an exceptional. There's lots of good practices out there, but there's a big difference between good and exceptional. And exceptional practices don't happen by accident. I've
Yeah.
said this before, I think, on our last call, perhaps, but yeah, it's not by accident, right?
Right. And in the course of the evening, we played all of these calls that are sub-marginal, right? And then we gave them an example of a shared client of ours who is an exceptional practice, and played that call. And it's just those systems and processes that they had in place that just it's like you can see all the doctors going, this is not hard, right?
It's the five.
It's those steps.
Yeah.
And so, but it's such an elevated experience for whomever is on the other end wanting to come into your practice. So that's where I'm proud, and it's a lot of fun to show the difference, and then again how we have the solutions to help.
Flint, how do you empower these teams? Like, and is it a matter of getting the controls in place, sort of downgraded, so these folks can jump in and take responsibility and give people actual, definitive roles in the practice? Like, what's that from zero to success?
Yeah. No, I think that's such an important piece, right? So a lot of times, and I'm pretty sure Machelle has had to deal with this specifically in the last week of, hey, there might be somebody in the room who the call is them, right? So when we go in and train offices, like, one of the things we're doing is we're playing their calls in front of them. And that can be a really uncomfortable, I mean, everybody hates their phone voice. Everyone really hates their phone voice when you're playing it in front of the rest of the people on their team or people that they don't know. So like that breakdown of, hey, this isn't about what you're doing wrong, because to the point Machelle and Bobbie-Jo just made, they don't have the tools already. Like, no one's going to expect you to go ace a test that you never were really provided the syllabus for the class. And so the first piece in this is really just getting, number one, the doctor to understand that it's their duty and their role to provide that structure and system. But once it's there, then we have to actually abide by it. So I think I have about 3,000 front desk team members across our member practices who are actively in a ongoing accountability and support program we call our 5-star certification program. And so coming off of our kind of annual celebration, so every April we celebrate all those team members and do fun giveaways, and how they latch on to their engagement around doing that one piece of their role differently at a higher level, at an elevated standard, is so fun for me and for our team to watch, because you can take somebody who goes from not knowing what they don't know to someone who, one of our winners this year, she has been certified, so she's gotten a 5 or a 4-star rating every single month for the last 6 years and I think 10 months. So she's like a month or two away from 7 years of every single month consecutively getting a 4 or 5-star rating. And this is someone who has personally handled 400 calls in a day. They have personally scheduled 56 new patients in a day. And it ultimately comes back to that willingness to repeatedly do the same thing over and over again and put themselves in the position to be held accountable. So I think the biggest thing is those team members who are willing to, number one, be open to the idea that there's maybe a way to do it a little bit easier and better. And then two, being willing to be assessed on that over and over and over again, even when by all other conventional logic, someone would say, well, you got this down, which I think is a pretty significant mirror to the doctor who runs a practice, right? So Bobbie-Jo, you mentioned exceptional practices. There are things that they require. I mean, a lot of what I'm saying is a mirrored effect to the doctor who has the practice that's growing and it consistently grows. They don't just see that one spike and then all of a sudden maybe some more money comes in and we decide, oh, I'm good now, right? And you guys get to, and we all get to see what the other side of that looks like.
They're consistently investing in themselves and their team. And that's one of the reasons I love you guys, because I've seen offices go to some course or some kind of training, come back, they integrate it for a little bit, and then they go back to their old ways, right? Whereas you guys hold the doctor and the team accountable. And that's a huge thing, and you can see that difference. So, but
I got a good one.
yeah,
Machelle, I'll throw this one at you.
Oh, okay.
What do you do with those bad actors? You know, the ones in they're non-compliant. They have their own systems. Nobody else can show them anything better. How do you? Because I've seen them out there.
Bad actors in the way of the folks that were attending the events.
Well,
or
just
in general?
the folks in the folks in the practice that put their heels in the ground.
Yeah.
That they truly are maybe the reason that the practice is not having this, like the bad apples.
Yeah.
What do you do?
And I can think of an instance this week, but for me, when I know, right, that I have a bad actor, I step back for a minute and I like to meet them where they are. And if they want to be a bad actor for a few minutes, that's fine. But ultimately, I want to get to know them, right? Because most people tend to posture when they know that there's a weakness that they have within themselves. And so I spent some time getting to know them in the events this past week. We had one or two that if you could say the doc was flexing, I mean, puffed out chest, why are you asking me these questions? And why are you wanting me to do this math? And then when it came time to listen to their call, and I said, almost having empathy for them not knowing, right, how bad it was, and then giving them a moment to process it, whether it's in an office or in a meeting, listening to the call, letting them sit with it for a few minutes, and then hopefully again saying, hey, this is an opportunity and it's all on you. Holding them accountable is the biggest thing, but it takes them a minute to process it. And then looking at them and saying, what the heck are you going to do? Right? How are you just going to ignore this? You going to fix it? You going to try to do it yourself? Or are you going to hire a professional? Guess what? That's us. So
Yeah.
I
suppose if they're attending the course, they're invested, right? They've made that step. But
hope.
Flint, how much of it boils down to team culture and leadership?
Yeah. And to kind of go off your last question too, because when I first started, I was one of our trainers. So I was out on the road 3-4 cities a week, putting these systems in place. And, we all have our favorite code names for that team member who's sitting in the back, cross-armed, just, I'm not listening to this guy, no chance, right? Especially like, you go in the office, you could be like 24 years old, you're doing a training on something, and this person's been answering the phone in the office for 24 years, right? So it's like, what does this guy know? Well, a lot of that is relatively predictable, but when you train someone, there are only a few predictable responses, right? So my favorite is you get surprised. And you get surprised because you actually had a lower assessment of that person's potential than they had. So the cool thing about what we do is we're in the people business, we're in the performance business. And so when we get to go into an office and somebody actually is underappreciated or undervalued because they haven't had those tools. And then all of a sudden they start to blossom and it's like, wow, I had no idea that Susie had that capability inside of her. That's my favorite. Now, on the far other end of the spectrum, you have the, I'm just not going to do it, right? So that's where your bad actors come into play of, people respond to training very well. They can't, like they're just not capable of doing it, which is such a small percentage. Like I think more people are assumed to be incapable than are truly incapable. And then you have the people who just simply won't. And a lot of times that shows when the accountability component gets put into play, which to your point, Marc, is typically a cultural sign, right? Like if we're the first people to ever come into your practice and apply any form of accountability onto the team, there's gonna be a natural revolt to that, right? Some people will be like, oh, this is great. Like I now know what I'm held accountable to and how I can be successful, and they love that. But the reality is when you have that vacuum of accountability, which does often happen in practices because we're so head down, run the hamster wheel, see the patient, do my clinical thing, study clinical excellence, which is great. But then when we apply the accountability to the team and we haven't tested that muscle before, that's where we can start to see some signs like, ooh, there might be something going on here. And that's where being able to guide the doctor through those decisions and not act too quickly in one direction or another, I think becomes super important.
I love it. Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And you talk about, building these new systems, like like you alluded to it, Bobbie-Jo, like keeping them on track, like they go through all this process. Machelle, how do they stay on track?
Well, one of the major ways, and we had these very questions this week, is okay. So if I train with you, how do you keep me on track? Well, we do that. We do that by training your team in person and full day training. So we are getting a lot-on-one FaceTime with the docs and their teams. I think it's super important that the teams see the doctors participate in the training to know that they're investing, right? They are putting monies towards a betterment for their team members. And then more importantly, we have an accountability program that Flint, when you mentioned our certification nation. So we have an accountability program where we come in after the trainings and we're consistently working with the teams and doing that on a monthly basis. And I tried to share it this week, but this is not one and done. Like our top clients do this same phone training every year with the same 12-month accountability programs. So it's evergreen, right? It never ends. And that's where you get the magic happens and the results happen because of the accountability.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then to put a feather on your hat, Flint, how many teams have been through the program over the years? Like that must be such a rewarding thing to have that much impact on so many folks.
Yeah, it's really cool. I actually just one of the team members who has been a part of that program for 17 years just retired, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And so I did a episode of my podcast with her because she probably was personally involved in that certification journey with, literally hundreds of thousands of team members. Like we've certified probably, 30,000 front desk team members over the years. And the list, like every month, we publish the list of everyone who's been certified for the first time, and it's hundreds of team members. And so to see that every month and then see the people who have been certified every month for like 6 years consecutively is, for me, it's one of my favorite things. It's because I appreciate how seriously they take it and I know what it takes to do it consistently. But all in all, I think we've done 36,000 plus in-office full-day trainings with teams across the U.S., Canada, all the way to Australia. So seeing those before and afters and that response, especially of the teams who maybe were underappreciated that then start to really become serious value creators is a lot of fun for us.
And that's the magical part. Now you have somebody that's empowered, that has purpose. Like,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And yeah, like that was everything that I've seen in this industry. It truly is about teams being taken care of in that practice. Then they're going to take care of those patients. Like it should, like, what is it? Richard Branson that said you take care of your team and they take care of your clients, whatever. This will always, it's a healthcare service. Like this will always be a people business. And I would love to argue with anybody to say if they think it's other than that. I think it all stems from empowering the teams, giving the tools, and just like having impactful work, like waking up, Monday morning and you're not dreading going to work. Like and a lot of that is like there's not direction. So, yeah, I see it. It's you guys are doing and it's crazy. You guys, what was it? You said 30,000. There's like 21,000 practicing dentists in Canada. So that's a significant. That's like 10% of the U.S. market. That's you guys are that's amazing. It's really cool. And is there anybody else in the market doing what you guys are doing right now? I don't think so.
I think for a long time we've said we just do so much. So there are people who do all kinds of different parts of what we do, right? And a lot of people swing more to the virtual training, but for a long time we've just had this commitment to, we want to train in person as much as possible. We want to do it in your space as often as we can, because it's tough, right? I mean, Machelle's been up there for 10 days, but imagine having every one of those doctors have to come all the way to Atlanta, Georgia to get their team trained, right? So the difference of us getting to be there in their practices, do that, I think is still one of the best things about what we do.
To me, that just being there is everything. Like seeing the nuances, subtleties of the systems, to have like doing things digitally, or even going to Atlanta to be there. Like I'm sure that's second best, but it's great that you have a team that can show up to the door. And we're doing this obviously. Bobbie-Jo, you're taking the lead here, and driving this forward. It's such a critical thing. What is set up Patterson Dental wise for just the team here in BC? If you guys have any sort of collaboration, some sort of deal set up, like is this just, are you taking this on? Like, what's that look like?
Well, it's a partnership.
It's a partnership. In my 30-something years of dentistry, or however long it's been, long time, I've created a pretty vast network to support my clients. And the last 5 years, I was a manager out in Winnipeg, and I was a CEREC specialist. And in the last 5 years, I have a territory, which has been my favorite position in my 25 years with Patterson by far. And I'm able to see missing things. And the biggest thing is I just don't want to be an order taker. I want to have a big impact on my clients, because I love my clients. I care about my clients, and I want them to achieve their goals. And a lot of times they don't know how to achieve those goals, or they don't even have the goals actually. Right. So I saw, we became friends. I went down to Discovery Day, and I've seen the impact that Scheduling Institute has had with a client in particular, and I wanted that for my clients. And this was 13 months in the making.
Yeah.
It's happened. And,
Yeah. Well,
it's been incredible.
And you asked, but I mean, her commitment and your team, but Bobbie-Jo's commitment to her clients is like nothing I've ever had the opportunity. And I work with companies all over the country, and in Canada. And so, but it's just her personal touch, and commitment to excellence is blowing me away this week. And so they trust her, right? And they trust the Patterson team, but trust is earned, not given, as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, isn't that the goal we all have, right?
True, yeah.
When we work with, if you're doing it for the right reasons. And so that's where the commonality, I think, for both of us.
And the group that was on board with me, like
Yeah.
Kathy came on board, Wendy, Lisa,
Yeah.
Aaron on the island as well. We all have that same vision for our clients. And it's really to, like I said, to have that positive impact.
Well, as a dental rep coming through
Mhm.
the door with the other, we've got Medline
Yeah.
and we've got Henry Schein,
Yeah.
right? Everybody kind of has the same stuff.
Yeah.
So, what value are you bringing? And I think
Mhm.
it's like, what an impactful, like you're a consultant,
Yeah.
a true consultant. If you have, a really great network and support that you could do something like this and offer this kind of stuff. And if the practice is busier, they're going to be buying more stuff, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just want to help them, and hopefully that leads to loyalty. Well, it already does. It
Yeah.
Right.
has. I have very loyal, committed clients, and they know I work hard for them,
Awesome. Beautiful.
and they value it.
Flint, Machelle, how does somebody get started with you guys?
Yeah.
How does somebody get started?
It's as easy as a phone call or reaching out to us. We have a couple of more events before I leave your country. And so certainly any clients that are Patterson clients can contact in a couple of ways. One is they can go to their reps. I've left information behind. They can come to us. And then certainly just reach out directly to Scheduling Institute and to Practice Growth Institute. We work with teams and we coach doctors to be super successful. And so there are various ways. Any way works, right? We'll be ready.
We use smoke signals here.
Well, and
Right.
they were kind enough to actually do a Patterson promotion as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
that was really
Yeah.
great.
And look, this partnership is a partnership and it's not going anywhere. Like we've been driving and putting the miles on the car this week, really exploring and forward thinking of what are other ways, right? Phones are not the only thing we do at all. We have a lot of trainings and we work with a lot of doctors, and we're there for doctors who need us, right? That need to be coached, that just don't know the business skill set. And so we've got a lot of ideas of how this partnership can be there for the long run. So it's good stuff.
One of the meetings we had was a doctor looking to expand. And one of the things they commented on, and I can't, I don't have their expertise or knowledge. I can't go there, right? But one of the things they said is they've been trying to find somebody like Machelle, like the Scheduling Institute. They've talked to their accountant, they've talked to the lawyer, and they wanted to figure out how to do this, and they weren't getting any advice, and not good advice if they were. But one of the events I attended with my client, the Discovery Day, it's all laid out, your plan, it's clear. I've never seen anything like it. Like it's so, I don't do it justice when I talk about
And
it.
what she's referring to is a day that, whether it's in Atlanta or Phoenix, which are both of our training facilities, but this is a day that's very intentional for doctors where they come to us, they get away from their practice, they're working on their practice and really putting it up on whiteboards, really looking from the time they got out of dental school to the transitions in life, wherever it is that they've landed in their practice when they come to meet with us, looking at struggles, opportunities, and then the future. And then more importantly, the end of the day, they're looking at what we have of our offerings as the lead practice growth consultant, and then how can we take our solutions and help that doctor. And so that day it's a great day. We have folks traveling down from Canada all the time for those. Some doctors this week from our events that are planning that. So
we still love you guys.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have you too.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, she's an honorary Canadian now, so she was even rocking the roots.
Oh, I have a whole Roots swag set that the
Nice.
Patterson team gave me, and I donned it very proudly the other morning for my early morning walk. And but look, it's we do still love you, and the that partnership isn't going anywhere either. So right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Flint, can we keep her?
Hey, I was afraid she might never come back by the end of this.
Yeah. No.
Well, everybody loved her, so
We had
yeah.
a great time.
and I love her.
Yeah,
Very
it's been great.
Awesome. Flint, anything else to close this up with? Like some 30,000-foot thoughts?
Yeah. Bobbie-Jo, we appreciate everything that you've done, and Machelle, the two of you working together, Marc, for bringing this whole show together. I would say if you want to get a mystery call in your practice too, right, a great way to do that is to take our 5-star challenge. So it'll actually assess those 5 areas. And with some of your practice info, we can kind of walk through, hey, what's getting left on the table? So if you go to either schedulinginstitute.com, take the 5-star challenge, I would recommend that if any of that struck a chord for you. But otherwise, I would just encourage anybody who's listening, like, lean into your people. If you have doubts about them, maybe ask yourself first what you've done to equip them to be whatever it is that you assume that they should be, right? And if that answer isn't like, I've given them everything, actually, I take that back. If you say I've given them everything, you've probably given them nothing. So that's always a good litmus test. But lean into your people. They'll serve your patients well, and things usually go well if we do that. So.
Beautiful.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
Mark.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. No, this is, again, I'm going to chop this up for Patterson uses. So for all your work, like, let's keep going with this.
Mhm.
I think, you talked about like what's the differentiator in you walking through the door. Like, it's these partnerships. That's the future. The way that dental goods and supplies are going to be sold in the future, who knows? It
Yeah.
could be an app. It could be, like
Right.
what does the sales role look like in 5-10 years? So I think the successful role, it looks like this.
Yeah, and then question, on the end, is there a way for us to have a slide that you could, if you're interested in taking the 5-star
Yeah, totally.
challenge?
So that's what I like. This is like, we're done. We're wrapped up now. So
Yeah.
like this, I'm going to chop this up.
Yeah.
If there's any extra material to add on, any upcoming events, now we've got a nice chunk of content that we can continue this partnership into the future.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Flint, I'd love to have you on Dental Bytes too. I sent Sam the link to book, so I'd love to have you on. Like a one-on-one sort of deal. Sorry.
No.
I'm gonna steal it for myself.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Is there anything, like, any other topics that we didn't cover that we would love to bring up here? I think I wanted to keep it to 45 minutes. It's a good chunk of material. I know you guys you got to hit you're going to New West or something. So
I don't have an event tonight.
Yeah.
She's gotta get
I
on
got
the
your
flight.
flight.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
gotta
go
get a
home.
Red Bull to put down.
Do it. You guys go find some Red Bull and some more sushi or whatever you
Right.
need. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Thanks.
Flint, anything else top of mind for you that we can add to the conversation? I think we're good.
No. I mean, I think it was great. I appreciate you guys all putting it together.
Awesome.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
Flint.
We'll wrap it up then. Awesome.